welcome to the family with
Mike Stretch Gelfand.
And Andy Brant Bernard.
Zip.
Get to earn a title.
Yeah, you don't have a title yet?
Nope.
All right, so we just okay. I got to bring this up right away because I saw it last night, and I did sleep well last night, but it still bothers me. Because there are people I don't like in the world, but I don't know that I'd ever do this. Our two parties have got to do something because and this is not what started it. I'm just starting with Biden and the Democrats because looking back, the disdain he would have on his face. Oh, these MAGA Republicans are the worst people on earth, and oh my God, it is horrible. Did you see the new ad that Trump's people put out last night?
Was this the ad that says Joe Biden will probably die before he's able to take office again?
It's disgusting, Mike. What happened to America? These two are going to destroy this country.
Yep. You got that, and then you got the what was it? The log cabin Republicans or whatever. They put out the ad. They took what are they called? Lincoln Project. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yep.
Lincoln Project put out a ad where they had AI recreate Donald Trump's dead father, so he could tell him how disappointed he was in his son.
How look at that.
Are these people?
I think he'd be very proud.
Yeah, for real.
Knowing what we know about him, I think he'd be right there.
Exactly.
But the point being, I have never known people, and I grew up in a pretty damn rough neighborhood. There's no question. Mm-hmm. I have never known people to be this vicious so publicly. It's hideous.
Yeah. Well, but
it's pretty bad.
But there's always going to be a new low.
Well, that's true. But my God, how do you get...
Yeah, the true low is probably like Pol Pot or something to that effect. Just kill everyone who disagrees with you.
Andy, have you seen the ad, the TV ad?
I have not.
They run the numbers. How long is he going to last? 2024, 2025, 2026? They're literally predicting that he will be dead before 2028.
I mean, both of them have a pretty good chance of that happening. So I don't know if I'd throw stones if I were him.
Well, if you look at the actuary tables, a guy who's 82 now probably is going to make it to 90.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Especially if he's the president of the United States.
Well, yeah, look at Trump. I mean, he almost died when he had COVID, but he had, round the clock, 10 doctors and 20 nurses at his side. And he had all the latest antiviral medications. And yeah, you're right. I mean, he probably wouldn't have made it either if he hadn't had that. So
let's see what's the SSA say. So Trump is 77. Let's see. So the life expectancy of a 77 years old looks like about 9 more years.
Yeah.
So 86.
Yeah. Appears to be the case. Biden is 81. Looks like he's got 7 more years on average.
87 and 88.
He's got about a 7% chance of dying in a given year, which is much lower than I expected.
Yeah, once you make it to that part.
That is true, yeah.
You're not destined to make it that long, if you're just born.
Right. It seems like once you make it past the hard drinking years, you can pretty much live forever.
Yeah, you're not taking as many chances, I would imagine.
Yep.
Although it is taking a chance to be president.
That it sure is.
So you got to throw that in there too.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. What about presidential aging factor? That's pretty high.
Yeah. Although it's kind of like it's what you'd sort of expect. I mean, every now and then I see, like not too long ago, I saw a guy. This was this was actually like about 20 years ago. So I saw a guy walking down the street. I'll say his name was Sherman Allen. And so I turned to a friend of mine who worked at the paper, and I said, God, look at that guy. He looks like an elderly Sherman Allen. And there was a silence, and my friend said, that is Sherman Allen.
Oh!
Well, I guess he is an elderly Sherman Allen, so there you go.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the whole thing. If you see someone, and then you don't see him for 20 years, and you see him, it's always breathtaking.
Did I see a stat, because it just popped up, a listener sent it over, that 59% of the people in America don't want either Biden or Trump to be president?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
59%. That's
Well,
a big number.
That is inevitably going to be the case with most elections because every single ad you see is negative.
But that's beyond negative. That wishing someone were dead is beyond negative.
Well, yeah, that's pretty extreme.
And they're both, their ads are, like I said, I've met Trump, I've never met Biden, so I can't judge him, all the rest of it and blah, blah, blah. But if somebody came to me and said, Tom, here's what we're going to do. There's a morning guy over at another station in town, and we're going to run an ad saying we hope he drops dead. I'd go, no, we're not. No, we're not running an ad hoping that a competitor, is going to die.
Well, we're at a point in this country, and I think around the world, where most people could make up a list of the people they want to die. That's really that's our culture right now, and I don't see where it's going to get any better.
I don't know. I mean, you could probably go to any time period and ask the average person, and their list is going to be pretty big. So you've got 100 years ago, you ask pretty much anyone in the world, their answer is going to be anyone in the country that is currently fighting my country.
Well, but now it's a little more extreme. I mean,
it's more personal.
It's far more personal, and I mean, I remember the time when people really would say things, and they like say things like, well, it doesn't really matter who's president because things are going to go along just about the same. People don't say that anymore.
Not anymore. They don't say that. I honest to God have no idea what the hell I'm going to do. I really don't. I just everything is so hateful, and that's not leadership to be that hateful. And they're both a couple of hateful pricks.
Well, yeah, especially when the advertisements are developed and funded by the same people who are funding your campaign overall. Mm-hmm. So if you're getting say, let's say $100 million from a PAC, you're probably going to go along with what they want. And in theory, of course, you can't interact with these PACs. But come on.
That's what, you can't interact with them. I've always thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring that up at the very beginning so we can get to some more pleasant things, but I just could not believe that I saw that ad. I hate it when they get up there and just, these MAGA Republicans are terrible people. Yeah, well, I hope you die in the next 5 years. What kind of an argument is that?
It's remember that song? Was it Joni Mitchell, Both Sides Now?
No, I've looked at life from both sides now. Yep.
Yeah, so we're seeing it from both sides now.
Can we ever recover from this?
Hard to walk it back.
I agree 100%. I don't know if we'll ever recover from this hatred. I
was just reading this morning a story in the Atlantic magazine. It's making the rounds. It's a lot of people are talking about it. A story in the Atlantic, and it's about anti-Semitism in this country.
Yeah.
And what the author is saying is that the time when Jews could feel prosperous and safe is over. Oh, and the reason is because they're being attacked from both sides. And that's a tough burden.
What do you mean both sides?
I mean, because you're getting it from the academics on the left, for example.
Oh God, yes.
And then you're getting it from the well, we could say the Christian nationalists on the right, but obviously it's far more than just that. And now you're getting like a friend of mine was telling me about his and this friend is liberal. I'm his friend, so he has to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just be able to tolerate me.
Sure. Well, he doesn't tolerate. He told me he doesn't tolerate you.
Well,
he pretends to.
He pretends to, right? And that's all I ask.
Yes.
And just pretend. I'm fine with that. And he was telling me about how his kid, who's in college, has started using the expression Zionist trash.
Oh God!
But see, if you read this story, one of the things you learned, and I knew it anyway, but it really reinforces it, is that Zionist now doesn't mean Zionist.
No.
So when people are attacking the Zionists, They don't understand that the vast majority of Jews in this country are not Zionists. But
No, they are not.
what they want is they want everybody to equate the two.
Well, but here's what I don't understand. Have you ever been to Israel, Gaza? You ever been in those places?
No.
I haven't either. I don't understand because you're a Jew and I'm not that you should be hated. What have you ever done to these people?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting you'd say that, because one of the points that were made in this story, one of the points was that Jews in America are more likely to support a two-state Israel
Yeah,
than
that's right. Yep.
than non-Jews,
Yep.
and so that ought to tell you something.
I was shocked by this, Mike, when this started happening and the hatred for the Jews around the world, particularly in the Middle East and in academia. That one shocked the hell. Well, it didn't shock the hell out of me because I do think our academia now, these people are mentally ill. There's something really wrong with them.
It is. It
Have
is
been forever.
It is not
Yep.
the majority. I mean, you go
Are
into
you
a college
sure?
camp. Yeah, because I went to college, and I had a good relationship with Mulford Sibley. He was my advisor. He was a left wing. He was a leftist, and Mulford was not like that at all. And so it is. If you read this story, you'll see that it's an absolutely small minority, but they're very loud, and people and a lot of students will relate to them because of the simplicity of their hatred.
They're also platformed by some very rich and powerful institutions is the real problem. I mean, you can be crazy all you want, but if you're some, toothless guy in a shack, no one's going to listen to you. But if you have billions of dollars of academia behind you, people are going to listen to you.
I don't actually know what you mean by that.
I mean, if they have tenure, then the university is essentially saying we support this person's opinions.
Well, a lot of these people don't have tenure, because when people have tenure, they tend to be a little more cautious, and plus,
One would hope.
But I mean, if you got to read this article to understand this. What's going on now? The fulcrum of all this anti-Semitism in this country, and this will not shock you, is Berkeley.
Yeah, that does not shock me.
Not at all.
And there in Berkeley, you've got high school teachers who are indoctrinating the kids to hate Jews. Oh yes.
Well, why is Berkeley allowing it?
Well, that's certainly a legitimate question, but they feel a lot of pressure, and it's that gets a little more complicated as to why people tolerate this, but these people who are teaching this dogma about Zionist trash, they're scary people, and they make a lot of people very fearful.
I have a question for you because I grew up a nice Catholic boy, went to Catholic school for the first to the 8th grade, then went on to other things. Here's what I don't understand about Christians being anti-Semitic. Makes no sense to me because it was made very clear to me as a boy. I'm not the most religious guy in the world, I admit it, but I was taught from the time I was 4 years old that Jesus was our Lord and Savior, and Jesus was a Jew.
Right.
So how can I, as a Roman Catholic, end up hating Jews when our Lord and Savior, quote unquote, was a Jew?
Well, that goes back thousands of years, doesn't it?
Yeah, thousands and thousands.
When people were saying, and we come and go with this, but now the question is, we're here. How do we get out of it? But people. There were always a lot of people who said, preached anti-Semitism because of this conspiracy theory that first of all, you got to believe that Jesus was more than a metaphor, right? That
Right.
that everything we know about Jesus is fact. We can't possibly know.
Well, Jesus existed. What we don't, of course, have any proof of is the things he did.
Right.
There's Roman records of him existing, but anything beyond that is, of course, up to faith.
Yeah, up to faith, right? And so there are these people who are saying, Jews are evil because they killed Christ, and then it's not hard to go from there to Jews control all the money in the world. Jews control the media. These evil Jews comprise 0.2% of the world population.
Yes.
So they're doing really well for 0.2%.
No doubt about it. I got to throw a joke in here to lighten it up because it ties in. There's no question about it. Mary is pregnant. She's up on the donkey. Joseph, her husband. Remember this joke?
I like it already.
I love this joke. So Joseph is leading the donkey by a rope, and Mary, the pregnant Mary's up on there. They're walking through the desert, and all of a sudden, a soldier says, "Halt! Who goes there?" And Joseph said, this is my wife, Mary. My name is Joseph. We're going to Bethlehem because we're about to have a baby. He said, wait a minute. Wait a second. Okay, so you're Joseph. The woman up on the donkey's name is Mary. She's pregnant. You're going to Bethlehem. And let me guess. When you get to Bethlehem and the baby is born, it's going to be born a boy, and you're going to name him Jesus. There's a pause, and Joseph says, no, we're not Puerto Rican. That is a great joke. I mean, come on. How do you not love that joke? It's wonderful.
When I covered the Twins, you remember Bombo Rivera?
Oh God, yes. Oh yeah.
Bombo's real name was Jesus.
Jesus, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and so in a story I wrote, it was just a part of a game story. I talked about all the fans who had embraced Bombo Rivera.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that these people were Jesus freaks.
No, come on. That's good.
They wouldn't run it.
Why not?
Delete that. Well, it might offend someone.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't want to offend anybody these days. Oh, God, don't even think of that.
Plus, they're talking to me. I offended everyone.
That's true, too.
I mean,
There's no
why was I
question.
there if not to offend people?
I mean, look, I went to St. Joseph's School from 1st through 6th grade. There were many Puerto Rican, Spanish people that went to that school. As a matter of fact, Hector de Jesus was a classmate of mine. They pronounced it, though, in America, Hector de Jesus.
Of course.
They did. They pronounced his last name de Jesus.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I'm like, isn't your name pronounced de Jesus? He goes, yeah, don't forget about it. Don't even think about it.
Gives it more clout when you pronounce it that way.
Well, is that what it is, Andy? There's a lot more clout to his name. But look, growing up Roman Catholic, I'm not a very religious guy. Obviously, I hope there's something bigger than us. I don't know there is, but I certainly hope so, because if this is the best it got, we got major problems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mike, is there any, to get around this, and I don't want to go on the entire hour just talking about this because it makes me very, very sad to see people doing the things, to see the two people running for president of the United States being that hateful to the world is very hard for me to swallow.
Yeah, but I mean, it's from my perspective. It started pretty early, and I'll tell you what really put me over the top of this thing and took away a lot of the hope is the fact that we had a president who said there are very fine people on both sides, and to me, if people could embrace that comment,
Yeah.
when the guy's talking about Nazis, basically. We call them, neo-Nazis. They're as close to Nazis as you can get.
That's correct.
And so where do you go from there is I guess what I'm saying.
I know. Where do you go from there?
It's just hate on top of more hate. So I don't know. I go back to my virus theory.
You think it's a virus?
Well, my virus theory is just that we're going to get a pandemic someday that'll wipe out, like 3/4 of the population.
I would agree with that. Yes.
And then maybe we start all over.
Can we start all over? Now, Andy,
I shouldn't say we because we won't be there.
you and I aren't going to be there. That's why I went to Andy immediately after you said that.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not interrupting at all. The important thing is, Andy, you're in a situation now. You have a 2-year-old son.
Yep.
Are you terrified for his future? Because I was for yours. I'll tell you
Some
that.
ways, yes. I mean, I think there are still places that you can live your life, but I don't know if America is going to be one of them in the next 20 years. Hard to say.
Is it getting worse by the day?
The problem is there's just too much power and money in America.
Yeah.
So it attracts all the psychopaths. And without enough checks and balances to keep them out, we just kind of trend toward more psychopathy.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows?
Well, there's a lot of money in Scandinavia.
Not nearly as much as I mean, per capita, there's a lot of money in Scandinavia. People who live there are doing very well for themselves, but you don't get $500 billion becoming a Scandinavian politician.
No,
No.
but the fact is, the really rich and powerful people, they don't really, they're not patriots of any country.
Well, no, they're not.
That's
That's why
true.
they come here to
Yep.
exploit it.
Yeah, they are
Not because-
globalists. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like America. They just know that this is where all the money is.
You just brought me back a great memory, Andy. I haven't thought about this in years, but I had a friend went to he didn't go to St. Joe's, but when I was going to St. Joe's, living down in that area, he was Scandinavian, and I went to his house, and the father answered the door. He goes, "What's your name?" I said, "Tom." "Hey, Tom, how are you?" I said, "I'm wonderful." I was about 8 years old, 9 years old, something like that. "So do you live in the neighborhood?" I said, "Yes, sir. I live just like 3 blocks down the road here." He goes, "Oh, so do you go to school with my son?" I don't want to say his son's name. "You go to school with my son?" I said, "No, actually, I go to St. Joseph's." And he closed the door in my face.
That's my least favorite saint.
The fact that I was Catholic, he was
Oh,
not
yeah.
going to put up with that, man.
Hey, when I was in grade school in St. Paul, of course, I went to public school, Groveland Park Elementary.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that now I'm talking about the mid to late 50s,
Mm-hmm.
But Groveland was great. They were up to date on all the latest books from 1890.
That's back when English was English.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
there you go.
And but it was not unusual for me to go to maybe a friend's house, someone I had just met, or maybe I was at the dentist's office, for example, and they'd say to me, "Gelfand, what kind of name is that?" And so when I was like 6 or 7 or 8, maybe even 9, I would say it's a Russian name. After that, they'd ask the question. I'd say, "Yeah, I'm a Jew."
Yeah, there you go. I just got a text message from a lifelong friend, said, "Tom, that actually happened to you like 3 different times I can remember."
Mm-hmm.
Because I was working at Donaldson's as a dishwasher. I thought one of the dishwashers was a very cute young girl, 16 years old. I was 16. She said, "Why don't you come over and pick me up? We'll go for a walk." She lived in South Minneapolis. I lived in North Minneapolis. Go over and knock on the door. Dad answers the door. I said, "Hi, is so-and-so home?" And he goes, "Yes, but I have to ask you a question." And I said, "Yes, sir. What is that?" And he goes, "I have heard you're Catholic. Is that true?" And I said, "Yes, it is." He goes, "Well, we're Missouri Synod Lutheran," and shut
Oh.
the door in my face.
Yeah,
It's happened to me like 3 times, I guess.
A lot of Protestants see Catholics as idolaters because they think that we worship saints.
Oh,
You're not
that's right.
supposed to worship anything but God.
Right.
So,
yeah.
you know,
Now the other side of that, of course, is we a lot of people thought there'd never be a Catholic president, right?
Yeah, they did.
up to 2.
So we don't have to worry about that now. But at the time when people were saying that, and really much later than that, I don't think anyone that I knew believed that one day Catholics would dominate the Supreme Court.
Do they now? See, I haven't even paid
Oh,
attention to that.
So the Catholics are doing okay now.
I guess,
in
comparatively.
sense. Yeah. I mean, there's bigotry there. But there's still people who hate Italians, who hate Jews, who hate the Irish,
Oh, yeah.
all those people who came to the country, most of them around the turn of the century.
I hate them all personally.
Well, that's the way to go.
Yep, exactly.
Well,
Get out.
One of the greatest lines in history that I can't even repeat was in Blazing Saddles. "We'll take this guy and that guy, but we don't want the Irish."
Mhm.
It's like, whoa. That was a little harsh. Mel Brooks, was he one of the most brilliant writers ever born?
is right up there. And of course, the thing that he had in his favor besides that was longevity.
Oh God, yes, absolutely. No, see, here's to me, and you and I have talked about this many times before, Mike. To me, meeting people from other neighborhoods, from other faiths, from other schools, you learn things. That's the way I looked at it. I learned from other cultures by doing that.
So, you've heard me say it, but that's what anthropologists say. Can't have any progress without the creative clash of cultures.
It's true. So why can't we do it?
Because we hate everybody who's not us.
Why do we?
Well, hate sells. That's why you're seeing these political ads, because you try an ad that's just like relaxing music, and somebody's just talking about what a great job somebody's doing. Nobody buys that.
No, that's true. No, you're absolutely right about that. I don't know, man. I just really wish that we'd back off and calm down. And again, my son Andy, as a son that's 2 years old, I don't want the world to look like that for Ethan. I don't want that. So he grows up, he gets to school in another 3 years, and he's going to start hearing that stuff being puked up. I don't want him to have to hear that. I didn't want Andy and Alex to have to hear it.
Homeschooling.
Yeah, we've looked into it, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
I suppose that's true.
It's not as hard as it used to be because
it isn't.
Because there's so many people who homeschool that you can choose what kind of lessons you want to engage in, but you're right. I mean, it's draining, and I know people who are homeschooled, and I would say this: on the one hand, they don't know who Prince was. Thought of that because of your guest today.
Yeah, Sheila.
But on the other hand, they tend to be very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
That's the thing. You can homeschool and then also socialize.
Right, you can.
I think that's like the best of both worlds kind of situation. But then you're putting probably 8 hours a day into making sure your kid grows up right. Which, I mean, it's a fair thing to do. It's basically a full-time job at that point. But if both people are working, and then you both got to come home and make dinner and clean the house, and it's a lot of effort, and that's for one kid.
Yeah, but as parents, I think a lot of us pretty much regard our whole lives as when kids are that age as being the most important thing is teaching them.
Yeah.
What's the thing? Even with it doesn't matter where they go to school, really. If there's an anti-learning attitude at home, they're not going to learn. Yeah. And if there's they foster their curiosity, they're naturally going to learn things regardless of where they're being educated.
That's why my kids, I taught them how to play gin rummy and poker when they were 4.
Well, there you go. I mean, they have a future.
Yeah, I contributed something.
Yeah. Learn to count straight. There you go. And learn your colors, red and black. Those are the only two that matter.
Yeah, there you go. I look back on that whole deal and the different lives that we all have and all the rest of it, but people find it really unusual that I was raised 100% by women. My mother, my sister Bobby, and my sister Vicky. Mm-hmm. They taught me because my brother Terry's older, but he was in the Marine Corps, and he was gone by the time I was 10, 9, something like that. So I didn't see Terry much anyway because he was in school. He helped to build the building at Benilde there to pay his tuition. So he just was not around a lot, even when I was a kid. But I learned pretty much everything about the world, about religion, about work, about all the rest of it from women. Do you find that to be unusual for a person who has an edge like I do?
I mean, ideally, of course, you learn from 2 parents.
Yes.
But that's ideally, and these days people have 2 parents, but it's not like they're both teaching the kids.
No, they're not, and that's not a good thing, is it?
It's not what you would hope for. No.
See, that's what I kind of thought. But I got very, very lucky, and I'm very grateful to Mom and Bobby and Vicky for, pointing me in the right direction. They did a great job, I thought.
Mhm.
But my mother's the one who basically, and I don't even know if she did it intentionally, but my mother's the one who taught me to not put up with anybody's bullshit. I learned that from
That
her.
is a good thing to learn.
There's no doubt about that. It just unbelievable. All right, so we got to get past this whole everybody hates everybody and they're making millions of dollars by hating everybody. I just
Mhm.
have no interest in it at all.
But I was reminded listening earlier today that, well, I've been reminded by various people, but that this is the 40th anniversary of Purple Rain.
40th anniversary.
And it's like,
Oh, God.
I got a call a couple weeks ago from someone, a woman who is she's doing a 40th year anniversary piece for NPR,
Jesus.
and she called me because she wanted to interview me because she had read somewhere that I was the only journalist allowed on the set of Purple Rain.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Why was that?
Well, it was because my buddy Irv Latofsky, who
Oh, sure. Yep.
speaking of, and but he worked at the Minneapolis Tribune. But I knew him. I knew Irv going back to when I was probably 16. Well, because I was working, doing little things at the Brave New Workshop, and he was writing sketches for the Brave New Workshop while he was writing mostly stories about entertainment for the Minneapolis Tribune. A great writer. So Irv, like a lot of us, got smart, left the Tribune. He wound up in L.A. working for the L.A. Times, so he had a lot of clout, and so he was able to talk somebody, one of the producers, I guess, of Purple Rain. He was able to talk them into letting a journalist onto the set, just to observe what was going on.
Mhm.
So Irv hired me to be that guy. And so the reason that people still want to interview me is really just for one anecdote, which is that I was on the set and I had cleared by all the big shots, and I was on the set for I guess about 10 or 15 minutes. It seems like hours, but I think it was probably 10 or 15 minutes. And there was a break, and then Chick came up to me. You remember Chick?
Oh, God, yes.
Chick Huntsberry. He was a professional wrestler before he was Prince's bodyguard.
Right.
He was not a huge guy. I mean, he was like a 5'10", 5'11", but he weighed about 280, and it was all muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so during this break, Chick came up to me. He was very cordial. After all, he didn't have to threaten people. And what could I do anyway? He came up to me and he said, "You're gonna have to leave." And I said, "Well, I just got here." He said, "Yeah, you're gonna have to leave." I said, "Well, how come?" And he said, "Prince says you looked at him."
Damn you, Gelfand.
It was just so impolite of me.
It really was. There's no
Yeah.
question. I met Prince one time. That was at Cliff Siegel, now Lauren Siegel's house.
Yeah.
And he was walking north and I was walking south. Went by, he looked at me and went, "Hi." That
Well,
was our whole conversation.
Prince rarely engaged with people like that.
I just think he was afraid of me. That's why he did.
Yeah. Well, he might have been. I mean, he was 5'4", but
Yeah, not a big guy.
very powerful. The only journalist that I know of who actually got to know Prince pretty well was my friend Neil Carlin.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
How's
and it
Neil? Neil's a great guy.
Neil, he's doing pretty well. Yeah, he's writing like crazy. He's not actually doing like it's not like something that naturally would follow his Prince book, which was really successful.
Mhm.
About Prince, it was called This Thing Called Life. But he knew Prince very well. He had recordings of conversations with Prince. I don't know anybody else who had those.
No, I would have to agree with you on that one. Look at how lucky we were to have grown up in that age where Prince came along, where you had, I mean, The Revolution was a great band. I knew a lot of those people too, just very, very nice people. We were lucky, actually. And that's why when this well, Mike, you remember how shocked I was, this anti-Semitic bullshit going on in our colleges. I went to college for one day.
Mhm.
So I never really went to college. But I'm like, this is supposed to be higher education. This is
Yeah,
supposed to be what?
and I never experienced anything like that at the U.
No, I'm sure you didn't, but
If
now
it
you
was
would.
there, I was not aware of it.
But now you would.
Well, I think you would
Yeah.
now. I think there's pockets in every college because, and one of the reasons is because there are people from everywhere, and there are people of every, anything you could think of, any political side. It's not like it's a binary thing, It's there's so many different angles there, and so yeah, you're going to have people like that at a college, no question. Um, it's different. Let's be honest about that. It's very different, and it's scarier. And
Yeah.
you want to hear from people from a lot of different cultures, but you're going to have to put up with this too. And I mean, what would I do if my kids were in college now? I'd be worried.
Oh God. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
absolutely.
And my kids aren't even Jewish.
Oh, they're not real. I didn't know that.
No, because their mother's not
Yep,
Jewish.
Judaism
Mother's not
is
Jew- that's right.
matrilineal
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Your wife was not a Jew.
And
unless they convert.
luckily for me, yeah, and my wife did not convert. I didn't even convert. So, but my kids are, luckily for me, for them, they don't look like me, so they can pass, is what I'm saying.
Well,
And
see,
they're not religious because I'm not religious.
yeah, there is that. The only reason that I was Catholic because my father was not Catholic. He
Yeah.
was Protestant. My mother was Catholic, so it goes on the mother's side, I guess, huh?
Well, I'd say especially in your family.
Well, especially in my family because yeah.
I mean, it's not like anybody who wants to be Jewish can be Jewish, right? It's just
yeah.
it's just that they're not by Orthodox Jews, especially. They're not considered to be natural born Jews, so they would have to. I don't know what they'd have to do. I mean, my dad, he grew up, of course, in Tulsa in the 20s and 30s, and he never had a bar mitzvah, which was probably kind of unusual at that time. And I had to find out the reason when my dad had dementia, and he was at a stage of dementia where he was telling me things that he'd never told me before.
Oh, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he told me was, finally, he told me the reason he never got a bar mitzvah was because he had a big argument with the only rabbi in town. Can you imagine that?
The only one in town.
Yeah. But I mean, my dad being argumentative,
No, whoever heard of it?
I mean, no one would guess it, right?
I like the idea of being able to gatekeep whether or not someone can become a man or not. It's like, nope, you're a boy forever.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Well, and it's not a bad thing either.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I look back on how fortunate I was. Didn't feel fortunate at some points, no question. But where I grew up, I was so happy with that whole situation. I mean, I could speak a lot of Yiddish before I was even 15 years old, 14, 13, something like that.
Yeah.
To this day. And again, the first Yiddish I ever learned was Goyish Anachas, which fit in perfectly with
Yeah.
me. Gentile pleasures is what that means. But instead of turning on other people because they don't agree with you, why don't we learn each other's cultures and know more about one another? Isn't that a better route to take?
Ideally, it's damn right.
Why doesn't it happen? Too much money on the other side?
Well, this we've talked about this before, but
Mm-hmm.
this whole Christian nationalism thing is really big, and it's growing all the time. I mean, you saw what happened in Alabama, right?
No.
With the in vitro fertilization thing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so they passed a law saying that that the embryo is a human being. So if anything happens to it, you're a killer. You can
Murder,
be
yeah.
tried for murder. Now the guy who's in, we don't know much about the Alabama politics or anything, but the decision was, the brief was written by the chief of the Alabama Supreme Court, and how he's justified this law was by quoting, I know what you're thinking, the Constitution, right? The Constitution means nothing to these people. The Bible.
The Bible, yeah.
It's all about the Bible, because there's a lot of people who believe that the Constitution is irrelevant, and the only thing we should be using as justification, as background for our laws, is the New Testament.
Okay, so if the Constitution means nothing, why do we obey the laws? Why
Well,
bother?
well, a lot of the exactly. So you look at politics
Hmm.
and try to answer the question there, and the answer being we don't.
We don't. That's 100% accurate. We don't follow any of the laws. I literally cannot believe, Andy. I'm 72 years old now. I would have never thought this anti-Jew thing would have ever happened in America after they went through that, what, about 80 years ago or whatever the hell it was.
About that, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in that. I was shocked that because I was taught to look up to educators. So even though
Yeah.
I never went to college more than one day, I admired college professors. Used to have guys on from the professors from the college in the early days of the KQ morning show. I admired them. And then I got to learn more and more and more and realized these are some of the people that are destroying this country.
I rarely went to class, but um, the best classes I went to, I mean, I remember the professors very well to this day, and they were fantastic. And I learned to write by writing, but I also got some very very good advice
Yep.
from some of the couple of professors who I recall very well, and they it was great education, and those guys are still around. It's just that they're not as loud as these other guys.
Hmm.
Did you see, by the way, did you see what's going on in North Carolina?
What is it now?
Well, the Republican candidate for governor there
Hmm.
is a Holocaust denier.
What?
Hmm.
So all this evidence we have means nothing?
Not a damn thing for some people. And again, I'm not saying that every Republican or even most
No.
are Holocaust deniers, but if the Holocaust denier, can get the nomination for governor from one of the two major parties, it's probably should not be ignored.
I just can't believe that people can still be. Andy, were you with us when Mom and I went to the Holocaust Museum?
I remember doing it a long time ago.
It
I
was
don't
a
remember
long,
when.
long time ago, yeah. But I would like all those people who deny the Holocaust ever happened. And I know they could set it up as props and all the rest of it, I suppose. But there is a train car in the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., that is filled with little children's shoes
Oh man,
that were piled up because they were executing all the children that day.
yeah.
Right? You go and see that mountain of little baby shoes, and you tell me you don't think this ever happened. What, did somebody just make it up?
Yes,
Seriously.
that's what they think, because you can
Yeah.
create any conspiracy theory in your head if you really want to believe some of that garbage.
Yeah, it's true. But so where did all these corpses come from? My own father-in-law was involved as a United States soldier in freeing some of these Holocaust victims. They're imprisoned. He had pictures. He didn't show them very often, Andy. You never saw him, I'm sure, because he did not want to show them to anybody.
Oh, he never
He had-
talked about it at all.
He never would talk about it. But I think he accidentally left one out sometime or whatever. But he had a picture of a trough. There had to have been 400 to 500 skeletons in that trough.
Hmm.
So if the Holocaust never happened, where'd they get all those dead bodies to take the picture?
Well, now you got people here like Alex Jones,
God, he's a
who
normal
are saying
one.
that the slaughter of children at elementary schools never happened. They were all government actors.
Oh, that Shady Hook, or what was it called?
Sandy Hook?
Sandy Hook, yeah.
Sandy Hook.
Yep.
Sandy Hook was the one he was involved in big time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
a government thing, the government set it up.
why would they do that?
It was so that they could embrace and convince people to pass laws limiting the use of guns and the ownership.
Oh, because you were going to kill a bunch of people, little children, to make sure that you don't get a gun.
Yeah, that's what it was, because it was like the NRA thing, and if you can't get a machine gun, then someday they'll take away your hunting knife.
Sure.
Hasn't happened yet, though.
Well, I will tell you what, I could leave this. We're done in about another 12, 13 minutes.
Mhm.
I could leave this studio. I could go down on the street. I would not have to go to a store. I guarantee you I could buy a gun within about 2 hours, right off the street.
Well, yeah, of course.
So, how was massacring children going to keep people from getting guns?
Well, obviously it wasn't.
Well, the idea is that law-abiding people won't be able to get guns. But
Oh, law abiding. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and as the NRA always like to say, the solution to a madman with a gun is a person who's sane with a lot of guns,
With a lot of guns. Yep. I
and
remember
it
that.
doesn't seem to work that way.
What are you going to do with this world, Mike? We start off talking about our two psychos that are running for president. We end up with a bunch of psychos that,
Yeah.
I just, so Alex Jones lost all of his money, from what I understand.
Well, some people say yes, and some people say no.
Oh, really? They don't know for sure?
No.
Because he was a multi-millionaire from all his bullshit, wasn't
Oh
he?
yeah.
But they took a lot of it, I know, from him. I just, but who listens to that bullshit? I've never heard Alex Jones in my life.
No, I haven't
I don't
either.
think a whole lot of people do.
Well, how do he make so much money then?
In the distant past, he sold products.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
certainly part of it. Yeah.
He sold water filters to remove what's it called, fluoride from the water.
Great.
Can a filter do that? Once the
Certain
fluoride's in the
filters
water?
ostensibly can. I don't know if his filters actually work or not because I don't care, but that is largely what he made. Also, he had that super male vitality, which I think was like some sort of pill.
Oh, sort of like Vern Gagne. Vern Gagne had.
Yeah,
He had the-
Geritol.
Geritol,
Yep.
yeah. And which
I think it was
baby.
very similar.
and the
yes.
implication of Geritol was that it made you more, made men more vibrant, right?
Mhm.
Vibrant?
Yeah, which meant, you know what it meant.
Yes.
Well, don't mention it to Catherine. She's not in the house today, so that's good.
Oh, good.
She didn't overhear that.
Let's not talk vibrancy around the women folk.
Yeah, the women folk, exactly. Why is it that we just cannot be happy? You've got, on average, what, about 77 years to live? The earth is a wonderful place. The United States, fantastic. Why can't we just enjoy our lives? Why do people actually have to prey on each other constantly? I mean, it's just, and Andy will tell you, I have tried to help people out many, many times because I thought it was the right thing to do. I've had a very fortunate life, and about 99% of the time I got screwed. Why do they do that?
Well, I have tried to adjudicate these prejudices on a, basically, on a level of 1-to-1, I like to talk to people, counsel them. For example, do Vikings fans really have to hate the Packers?
I don't think so.
Sometimes I do wonder how real that is. Like, I think most of it's like, it's play fighting basically.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But in a lot of
probably.
places, the rivalry is real. Oh, Dad just suddenly dropped off.
Well,
He'll join us again, I'm sure.
no, but you're right about that. And just to go for a little bit further, what you're saying. I mean, look at all the stories you'll read
There he is.
and every football season about the fan who got beat up and pulverized and is desperately ill because he was wearing the wrong baseball cap.
Well, that was only in Philadelphia, though.
Well, it started there, that's for sure.
God.
But a lot of that went on the Bay too.
Yeah, it did. Absolutely.
Oakland, that kind of stuff.
That
Not
kinda,
just
yeah.
Oakland, San Francisco, you name it. That's
God, I
just
used to-
ridiculous.
I was talking to Sheila E. about that this morning, that when Andy was 1 year old, not even 1 year old, as a newborn, Catherine and I went out to San Francisco for the first time. Well, KQ was at bringing people out to an Oakland A's game with the Twins, but Catherine and I stayed over in San Francisco. But I had a friend that lived also in Oakland. I used to we went there every year for many, many years after that. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
all the way up to when Andy was like 16 years old. We used to go out to, because we go to the wine country and all that through Truckee.
Yeah, Truckee's getting a lot of publicity these days.
Why? What's going on in Truckee?
Oh, it's Truckee.
Truckee. Yeah.
There's a town called Truckee.
Yeah.
I never knew.
It's right on the border of California. The wine country and Yeah, it's a quick drive from
Truckee,
Oakland.
County, California. Let's see. Where are you, Truckee? Yeah, it's very close to the border of Nevada.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yeah, southwest of Reno. Not terribly close to any major city in
No,
California. It's a ways out of Sacramento.
Sacramento. God, I remember the first time we ever went to Sacramento. You were a little boy at that time. Got back. You were like 2 years old, and Mom and I got back, and you were sicker than hell. And I remember how pissed off your mother was at her sister for that. But we used to love going to San Francisco, go to Oakland, go that. I wouldn't even think of going there now. Not even. No, thank you. Why did they turn such a palace, a beautiful area, into such a shithole?
I remember going to Oakland for the first time when I was covering the Twins. And I was absolutely astounded to see how beautiful that city is in many
Absolutely.
places, I thought of Oakland, and naturally I thought of all sorts of discord and bloodshed, and beautiful place.
It is. It's gorgeous. The one thing that was kind of scary, though, at that point, it was nearly 100 years, but you still look at those buildings and go, God, that earthquake, my God. 100 years later, you're still, is it going to happen again while I'm here?
That's why I'll never live on a fault line.
No, you don't want to live on a fault line.
I mean,
You're
people
right
talk
that.
about tornadoes in Minnesota, and tornadoes do devastate areas every so often, but it's much rarer than things like earthquakes, I think.
Yeah.
They're getting more numerous and more powerful, and certainly in California.
Oh yeah, the earthquakes.
Yeah. Well, there are other places too, but
Well, you have that the San Andreas Fault, which I think is holding enough energy to basically annihilate the entire West Coast in it should it ever snap.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think I want to live near that thing. I don't know. Even if the odds are 1 in a million per year, I'm going to keep my distance.
Yeah, I think if you, I like California, but if I lived there, I'd want to live in a place like Palm Springs. Not exactly on the fault line.
Exactly.
I want to be out there in the desert somewhere.
Yep, stay away
Right
from
over
them.
to Yeah, that's very, very true. God, I haven't been to Palm Springs in a long time. Catherine and I used to go there all the time too. Because, well, it's when I was working at Capitol Records. We'd fly into Los Angeles. I'd go do my duties for the Capitol Records label, and then she and I would head to Palm Springs. And what a beautiful place that is.
Did you ever stop in and see the Bob Hope house?
Absolutely, looked like a saddle.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't it? It was shaped like a saddle.
You can't avoid it because it's just looking down at you from the mountain.
It's true. And somebody famous owns it now, Bob Hope's house in Palm Springs.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about it. It's inevitable. And I would probably paid pretty good money for that.
Oh, I bet you they did.
I mean, the view is
well
pretty
there.
good.
From the mountaintop, yes, I would have to say it is. But then also the other great Palm Springs story, well, it wasn't too great for him, unfortunately, but Frank Sinatra was back in JFK running for president in 1960, 59 and 60, brought in all these construction workers, built basically a second house attached to his house in Palm Springs because he wanted someplace nice for the new president to stay. He built it and built it and built it. JFK never showed up.
Oh, no. Well, JFK was a very busy man.
Yeah, he was a very busy guy, dodging bullets. You know what I'm saying?
Dodging bullets. And
A lot of connections to maintain, if you know what I mean.
Sinatra, I just want one last thing about that. Sinatra was not the only gangster who loved Palm Springs.
Yeah, I kind of know that to be true, or JFK for that matter.
Well, right. I mean, the mobsters and the show business people, and he was both.
Yeah, he was.
Loved Palm Springs.
They love Palm Springs. There's no doubt about it. Andy, did you look up and see how much or who lives in Bob Hope's house now in Palm Springs? I thought I saw
The
you.
Hope Residence. Let's see. Completed in 1979.
Oh, really? It was 1979.
Oh, I thought it was earlier than that.
I did too.
Apparently not. It's 23,000 square feet.
It's
So
huge.
nice and small.
That should be enough. I like having 2 or 3 bathrooms.
I think they remodeled it in 2016
That's the guy who bought it. Yeah.
after it got sold. I don't.
So it doesn't say who bought it.
think it says who bought
You would think it
no.
would be like some guy who was maybe owned 62% of one of the movie companies.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
like, yeah.
But they
but-
don't say who bought it, huh?
No.
It's got to be out there. I mean, that's
You would
it's
think.
not a secret.
This site says it is currently owned by Moschino creative director Jeremy Scott. No, wait, no, that's the Elrod House, whatever the hell that is.
Whatever Elrod is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Elrod these days usually means Luis Rodriguez.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
here
there
we
you
go.
go.
This site says it is someone named Burkle. Ron Burkle.
I don't know who. So what does he
Oh.
do?
Wow.
Oh, he's the guy who restored it in 2016, but he just sold it apparently
Oh,
last year.
so Ron
Ron
Burkle
Burkle
sold
is
it.
a billionaire. I don't know who he is, but he's a billionaire.
Well, that's
How
the
much-
thing. You don't even get famous for being a billionaire
Yeah,
anymore.
for real. You've never heard of these people. He founded the Ukaipa Companies LLC, which is venture capital, et cetera, et cetera.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, of course it is.
Hedge fund.
Yeah, it's a number go up kind of business.
Hedge funds are the worst thing that ever happened in the world.
Pretty close.
No, they're definitely a major threat to democracy.
They really are disgusting. These hedge funds, what they do to business. Well, look what they did to radio.
Yeah, radio.
They've destroyed radio, basically.
Look what
Radio's,
they did. Look what they did to newspapers.
well, look what they did to newspapers. Absolutely right.
Those
No
are my
question
two
about it.
professions.
Yeah, there you go. Radio and newspapers. And I got, yeah, seriously, what they did is just unbelievable. Well, we can close with this. We can close with this information. Who just bought WCCO radio?
I don't know.
You ain't going to like it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Andy, you know, don't you?
I don't.
So was
I
Rod
didn't
Carew.
even know WCCO just was sold.
Yeah, the entire company was, yeah.
I'm thinking you mean Rod Carew, but because you said I'm not going to like it. But
No, you're not
I
going to
don't
like
think
it
he has
anyway.
that much money.
I don't
No,
know.
he
Is
does not.
WCCO worth that much money anymore?
Not anymore, no.
So
Not
he
anymore.
might.
Well, they have enough assets that you can drain from them and then leave them in ruins.
Yep.
Well, and guess who's going to do that? A young fella from Hungary named George Soros.
Really?
He owns
Soros.
WCCO now.
Through what?
He bought the whole radio company
But
or invested in it. That's what he says.
Venture, through what venture?
I don't know. It just happened about a month ago. Andy, you got the info
talking
in
about
front of you?
AM or the TV show or the
No,
TV station?
the whole radio company. Because
So-
they're not connected. They
Oh, so
used to
that
be.
it's the company that owns a ton of radio stations, right?
Well, he just bought a bunch of radio stations.
WCCO is owned by Odyssey.
Odyssey, that's AUD. Yeah.
Yeah.
ACY, yes. And yes,
ACY.
they just went bankrupt a couple months ago.
Yes, they did.
$2 billion in debt.
Oh, I thought they were in trouble.
Mm.
Well,
you can claw your way out of that, no problem.
Well, I'm not going to say who it is because I have many friends that work there, but there's another radio company in the United States, might have radio stations in Minneapolis, $17 billion in debt, soon to be $20 billion in debt.
Yeah. And what's the company that's healthy and vibrant? The one company that we know of locally.
Hubbard.
Yeah.
That's it.
Family
Only
owned.
good one.
The only good, where I started and where I'll finish.
George Soros bought $400 million of debt from Odyssey, possibly becoming the company's largest shareholder. But we're not
There you
sure
go.
because apparently during bankruptcy proceedings, their shares are not public.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So once they emerge from bankruptcy, we'll see if he owns them. There's a good chance he does.
I wonder what they're going to do with those stations.
Like you said, suck the blood out of them and
Let them go under.
fly away on their brooms.
Although, like in some cases, it seems pretty clear there really are no assets.
There are no assets.
Well, there's stuff you can sell out. You can sell some copper wire to some junkies and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
there you go.
Usually it's land.
The land is always, yeah. Because those transmitters require a decent amount of land to stand on.
Yeah.
I mean, you could build a nice 300-story condo complex on that land.
And when a billionaire says, I bought this company because I grew up with it. And
Yeah.
I really think
Yeah.
they're great.
Okay.
Like Warren Buffett and Dairy Queen is the great example. for
That's
me.
right. That's exactly right. And he's tearing them all down now for the
the
land.
land.
For the land, yep.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure he just happened to make a great financial decision because of the nostalgia.
Somebody in the case of Dairy Queen will come up as a competitor or maybe a replacer.
I wonder because
Tasty Freeze.
it
What's
doesn't
wrong with
seem like
them?
ice cream shops are a big thing anymore.
No,
No,
but
they're
I think they can be, at least, maybe just nostalgia, but I think they can be. But you're right. I was in not that long ago. I was at the Dairy Queen in Hopkins,
Oh.
about 18th and Main Street,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just say this: there were a number of people coming in and out, but I was the youngest customer there,
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
so
Well, I
that's
think
a problem.
a big part of it is that every grocery store in the country has really good ice cream these days. It's no longer just like, that freezer burned bottom of the barrel stuff that you could buy
but soft
decades
serve,
ago. Soft serve, well, that's the thing is if you prefer soft serve, which I personally do,
Yep.
I don't think you can really get that at a grocery
It's
store,
pretty
or it's
tough.
not
No.
going to be as good.
No, there are very few places, but there's a few more than there used to be, I think.
Hmm.
But we had of course we had all kinds of them post World War II
Yep.
because the soldiers got a nice check when they
Mhm.
came back. Of course, the check didn't really compensate for their post traumatic stress, but they did get checks, and a lot of them opened up little restaurants or little Dairy
Yeah.
Queen type places,
Yep.
or or little White Castle places.
Mhm.
That was big too, post World War II.
Yep, it was.
But all those places, they're like the post World War II family owned motels. Just don't exist anymore.
Yep.
We got to go, ladies and gentlemen. But it's kind of sad. I just heard that Studio B was just purchased by George Soros. So, Gelfand, you're out.
Well, I thought you were going to say I'm in.
Yeah, maybe you're in now. Yes.
I guess it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, I don't look
Exactly.
at it as being in. No,
No, I don't either. Great show today. Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you.
Talk to you later.
And
Bye.
you are not going to be on tomorrow, correct?
I will not be on this show tomorrow. I'll be on the morning show, but not this show.
There you go.
I'm talking to a new sponsor, and I have to meet them during this show because that's the time they had. So that'll be good.
It will.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Got a picture in my pocket reminds me of this one was before. Every time I hear the singing reminds me how you talking.